Hugo Keenan is out here campaigning today for a player of the championship. Is that what's going on?
Far from it.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby. I'm Greg O'Shea. We're here together with Bank of Ireland and I'm delighted to be back with my good mate Lindsay Peat. She's sitting here beside me. I missed you. How are you getting on?
I missed you too.
I know, it's been a while.
It's been a long time.
We've a lot to catch up on.
And your coin toss and everything. Can't wait to hear this because you started off the England match. You were a little lucky charm, I think.
I did. I started off the Ireland-England game and we've loads of Grand Slam stuff to reflect on. We'll get to that.
We will.
And the Irish Six Nations women's has started. But we're joined by someone very special today, guys. A big-time Irish actor, based himself in America. He's kind of done everything there is to be done in the acting world, the film world. He's also the voice of Batman, like been in Grey's Anatomy, Band of Brothers, The Good Wife, recently Smother on RTE. This man has done it all. We want to give a big welcome to Mr. Jason O'Mara to the show. How are you, sir?
Thanks very much. What an intro. I won't be able to get my head out of here now after that.
I know, man. You've done a bit of everything. I was trying to read up on your career, and honestly, I was exhausted by the end of it. You've done the whole lot. So, you're also a big-time rugby fan.
I am, yeah.
You grew up in South Dublin. Mm-hmm. So, can we back to the rugby career before you got into the acting? Did you play rugby as a young fella?
I played in school, yeah. I went to St. Michael's, and back then it wasn't the St. Michael's we know now, but it was kind of just on the turn, and we started getting to finals for the first time, and so I kind of got into it there, and I felt like it kind of, I was a teenager and needed a bit of kind of discipline and stuff, and rugby gave me that, and I also really enjoyed just the camaraderie of it, and then I got into acting. I went to Trinity and did acting, and I ran as far away from rugby as I could. And then I went off to the States and pursued my career and stuff, and I had a boy who was very rambunctious and physical and stuff, and he expressed an interest playing rugby when he was about 10 or 11. And I was in Santa Monica in Los Angeles and started to get involved with the rugby club there, the Santa Monica Rugby Club, and he was playing, and I started coaching him, and then I sort of slowly started to fall back in love with rugby again about like 10 years ago.
That's class.
So ever since then, I've just been like into it all, especially the Irish stuff, and every weekend I subscribe to all the apps so I can watch it in the States, up at 5 in the morning and all that stuff. So I've been getting into it, and I'm a fan of this podcast, so it's amazing to be here. I feel like brilliant. Charlie in the chocolate factory, seeing how the sausage gets made. Mixing metaphors there, sorry, sausage and chocolate, but you know what I mean.
It's all right.
That's a really good combo. Yeah. Typically Irish, chocolate and sausage.
Chocolate sausage.
Yeah, 100%.
No, we're delighted to have you in, and I didn't realise you were such a big fan. You were at the Leinster game on the weekend?
I was, yeah.
That's not a great one to be at. The first one they nearly lost.
That's true.
Listen, stop your messing here, right? They didn't lose it. It was a draw. Do you know what? Don't even give him an inch, because these Munster crew are just waiting for us to slip up, and we're not going to do it.
Well,
Now, I also have a very important question. Were you a back or a forward?
I was front and back row.
Were you?
Yeah, well, I was a front row in the J's, and then sort of front and back row in the S, and I eventually went on. I think we played and lost against Rock in a quarter-final, or maybe it was a semi-final. I was a flanker in that one.
Unless you're with Rock, you kind of, because they're so good, you kind of like no one likes
They were
Rock.
So good back then too.
They're still good. So
I can still remember those rucks. Like, they were the nastiest rucks I've ever been in.
Well, I liked you before, but now that you're a forward, I like you even more. So welcome.
Thank you.
And your son doesn't play anymore, but he played a bit of football for a while, didn't he? American football, that is.
Yeah, he did. He doesn't play rugby, but he's probably on the edge now of like stopping with the American football. But yeah, he was a running back with his school team, and I think he scored 10 touchdowns in his last season or something. Wow. He loved it. But he's in college now. He's doing film, and he's getting a bit arty. Yeah. Kind of like the way I got a bit arty myself, and so he's taking a break from the sport, I think.
He's following your path. That's cool.
We'll see.
So, lads, I want to talk to you about the Grand Slam. I presume you were watching it, Jason, or were you at it?
I was watching it. With the way I live and work, I don't really know what I'm doing month to month. So by the time I realised I was going to be here for it, it was too late to get tickets. They were like $3,000 or something.
Oh, impossible.
I was like, I think I'll have, watch it with a cup of tea with my dad. So I watched it with my dad, and I realised watching it the last time I'd watched a live, Ireland Six Nations game with my dad on the telly was when Sexton,
Kicked the drop goal
in
Against
Paris.
France,
So we have a good record, my dad and I. So yeah, I had a great crack with him. It's great.
Maybe
I wish
that's
I'd been
a
there
little-
though, and I'm jealous of you guys.
Yeah, maybe that's a little lucky charm. You sitting down with your dad and we win Grand Slams. So keep doing that every
Well,
year.
what about the World Cup? Make sure you're at home for the World
Yeah,
Cup, okay?
yeah.
Sit with your dad, because we could do with that.
For the quarters, the semis, and the final.
100%.
Yes, indeed.
You were there.
No, you were at the game.
I was.
You were chatting away with CJ Stander, Donncha O'Callaghan. Donncha listens to this podcast, I've
Yes, Donncha, sweetheart, we're going to keep it short and sweet for you today because we loved your feedback, okay? Thank you very much.
heard. Yeah, so did you have a good time with those fellas messing around,
Do you
I'm
know
sure?
what? It's a lovely chat. Do you know, it's a lovely chat of bringing out personalities, and we had a bit of crack about it, but we very much were, we had a pre-match chat about where England were going to target us and how we, thought we'd fare today. And obviously CJ had lovely stories about his time in an Ireland jersey and breaking his jaw and, playing on. You're like, wow, so, and he's been on the both sides of coins, that really big pre-World Cup loss to England and Twickenham, and then obviously Grand Slam. So yeah, he's a really good guy. He'd lost he tells me he lost a lot of money at Cheltenham, I'm not sure, but then he came over and we sat beside the game, and yeah, I was a bit tense at the start, giving out about the referee and kind of breakdowns and England being offside, but then as soon as he started, we all chirped in, so we had a great day. He's a lovely, lovely guy.
The South Africans don't hold back their opinions when it comes to rugby. So
No, he was kind of saying that, no one's getting back on the plane if the referee keeps with the bad calls. He was, he was grand. We know referees and the little idiosyncrasies, so we were ready for it.
You're being very kind. The ref had a dodgy game, no, I'll say it for us, but it worked out in the end, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and tell us about your coin toss.
So I was lucky enough to actually do the coin toss. For Guinness invited me down to do the coin toss, and now look, it's a big honour to do it, but a 4-year-old could have done it. Like, to be honest. So what happens is you get brought down to the tunnel,
Yep.
and you put on your Guinness jacket, and they hand you the coin, and all you do is then walk 2 meters and hand the coin to the ref. And you get your photo. So I got a photo with Owen Farrell and Johnny Sexton, but I'd met Owen Farrell previously in an airport, so he kind of looked at me and was like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? And then Johnny Sexton came out as well, and he just laughed. He was like, what? Like, honestly, what are you doing here? Like, because I'm just, you know what I mean? I think, not that I'm on their level, but like they know me from
Of
around
course,
the place.
you're
And
an ex-international.
they'd expect like a mascot to be there, and it's just me smiling away. So I got to keep the coin then. Jaco Piper gave it to me afterwards. So I have the coin here.
Nice.
Obviously, the podcast listeners can't see it, but the YouTubers can see it. There's a coin there, and on the back it says Ireland versus England 2023. So it's pretty cool to have the Grand Slam coined, you know what I mean? But I tried to give it to Johnny Sexton. I messaged him and I was like, do you want to keep it? It's obviously a big day for him, last time playing in Aviva Stadium, Grand Slam win, captain, the whole lot. And he said he already has his own medal from winning it, so he said I can keep it, which is very nice.
Ah, that's
Very
cool.
nice.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so it
And
is
fair
nice.
play to you for offering that. That's lovely.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a bigger moment for him, and I don't need it. It's cool to have it, but I thought one of his sons might want it, but he actually has the winning medal, so he doesn't need that coin.
He was probably being nice about it, but then you're like, oh yeah, you do have a medal, that's fine.
yeah, true, exactly. But to actually talk about the game itself, you were saying it before, Jason, that what really stands out about that win is that we didn't actually play that well, and to win a Grand Slam and beat England not playing well is a sign of a really good team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, remember when the All Blacks were as great as they were just only like 4 or 5 years ago, and for years before that, they could get a result even if they play badly. And you'd hear it in the comms going, oh, this is not the usual All Blacks, blah, blah, blah. But they would always get the result, especially against us. Like, that one in Lansdowne Road where we were winning right until the last, minute, and then we just get pipped at the post and they just managed to get the result. But so I'm kind of hoping we're heading in that direction, that even on an off day, we can still get the result because we have systems we can rely on. There's a certain amount of physicality we can rely on. We can rely on our set piece, rain, hail or shine. We can rely on our defence and our physicality and our organisation. And I think if we can do that, we can take on any comers. And even if we have a bad day, we can still hope for a result. And I think that's the kind of approach that wins championships. And of course, we want the days where we score 50 points and, but I think when it comes to playoff rugby, you just need to get the result no matter what.
I completely agree with you. Would you agree with that, Lindsay?
100%. I actually think it was infuriating. Tadhg Furlong's pullback. There was so many uncharacteristic, unforced errors, and you're like, we kind of were trying to play the expansive rugby that we played in the previous rounds, but this was always going to be a dogfight with England. Like, they were going to come trying to save their season. So I think it was a really good result. It was a really good grind out win, but we're still grounded going into a World Cup. So I think it was a nice balance. You know, we won a championship. We're not too much ahead that the world is still going, oh, Ireland are great. I think it asks questions of us. So we're still hopefully flying a little bit under the radar as regards to that. So the pressure, I think, has eased a little bit with that. And I think we can kind of build. But yeah, I thought it was an exceptional win because, like, we've been there at the elite level. Sometimes you can't always play the expansive rugby. That's like these training ground moves. You just have to grind out a win, and winning is a habit, and it's a learning habit, you know, that you have to do. And I'm interested to see your point on the Freddie Stewart red card or not.
Yeah, well, we actually have a chat with Hugo Keenan. Pat was talking to him during the week, and
I know he apologised. Hugo was lovely about it.
Yeah, Hugo was very nice. He's like, leave him off. It was kind of a rugby incident, and he has like a lot of empathy for him as a fellow fullback. But that's Hugo. Like, he wouldn't say a bad word about anyone. Like, do you know what I mean? I thought I kind of would edge towards what Hugo's saying, is that it was just a rugby incident, and Freddie Stewart's a big man. Do you know what I mean?
And he was playing well.
Yeah,
like, Freddie Stewart was playing well. Like, his
really
positioning for the fullback, he had really obviously done his homework. He'd put in some big kicks himself. And yeah, he is a big man. When he ran by, I was like, it was kind of like that day. Do you remember we were looking at the Australians? I was like, I would absolutely hate, I would be ankle tapping you the whole time, or just like chop tackling you and closing my eyes praying.
And the mad thing about Freddie Stewart is he's only 22 years of age. Like, he's still a young fella. He's still growing. Like, this guy's massive. And I think he's played every game for England since he started, whatever it was, 2 years ago. And he's still only 22. So he's definitely an unbelievable one for England for the rest of the future and for the World Cup coming up. But I definitely reiterate what you're saying, is that I was at the game and it got to like 60 minutes and we still hadn't pulled away yet, and we were still making uncharacteristic errors. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this time a couple of years ago we would have lost this game now at this stage. And the fact that the boys came together and Johnny Sexton pulled the lads in and they pulled it together and they got their couple of tries towards the end of the game and took away or took away from England what England were doing. And a big moment, I think, was Hugo going off the pitch, and I was like, he's one of our talismans now. You know, we need this guy at the back running the back three, and the fact that he went off and we still kept the game together, I think, is a very, really good sign. But also nicely humbled us going into the World Cup, because we're not unbeatable.
And Jack Conan coming on, like, again, his try for Dan Sheehan, who was exceptional that day. Like, again, that was the second offload, like, where he took it into contact and he was able to offload, and he was a big impact for me off the bench, and I think he's kind of really coming to the fore and back to the confidence, because he was obviously injured for a long time at his peak. So I think the depth of the squad and the choices we have, and obviously we'll cover a couple of players that have come back in the URC, the likes of Balakoon and Tom Stewart, who are going to, you know, make big impacts going forward. So it's a nice place to be in, that there's lots of competition, lots of depth, and lots of talented Irishmen there to hopefully get us to a World Cup.
Yeah. And we've had 3 nominations out of 6 for Grand Slam Player of the Year or Six Nations Player of the Year. We've Hugo, Mac and Doris, and then there's 3 French lads as well. Do you think one will go?
3 French lads. Them 3 French lads.
No, the 3 French lads. Do you think one will get it, Jason?
I don't know. It's hard to argue with Antoine Dupont as the best player in the world at the moment.
Ramos and Damien Pinot are the other 2 as well.
Right, and they're just, I mean, Ramos and, I mean, Pinot is just a try machine, and he creates stuff out of nothing. But I think from an Irish perspective, if I'm only voting Irish, and I am, so I would probably, it's a tough one between, I think for me, just between Mac Hansen and Hugo Keenan. Kenan Doris was amazing in those first couple of tests, and then he kind of just faded a little bit. I think he got a bit hurt against Scotland, and just faded a little bit in the England game, off his own, by the way, his own standards, not anyone else's. Like, he's still amazing. But I went for Hugo because I just think he's so important. You know, he's almost irreplaceable. You know, we have Jack Conan, who could come in for Doris, and we have any number of wingers who could come in for Mac. And even though Mac Hansen's incredible, he is replaceable. But I just don't see anyone on Hugo's level at 15. I mean, you know, Jimmy Bryan's like, he's got great potential in that slot, and maybe Mac Hansen can cover 15. But I just think Hugo's so far ahead in his position that I have to go for Hugo.
Yeah. I'd agree with what you're saying there. What do you think, Lindsay? If you had to pick out of the 3.
Just because he's a divil and he's been on the show, I'm just going to go with Mac.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, he had no right to score that try against Van der Merwe. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's like a small child going up against a man machine. And he's just really smart and he backs himself and he's been consistent. I think he's multi-talented. We saw him at, with Connacht at full back. But like, I'm not going to undermine the season that Hugo's had. I think it's so close, and I think it's, for so long we only had Rob Kearney, and for Hugo, obviously you played with him at sevens, and the trajectory of his improvement and how integral he is to the team, he it would be a shame for him not to get it. So to be honest, once an Irish player's win it, and it is between it's between the two lads. I'd like to see Matt get it he just doesn't give an absolute crap.
See, I think it comes down to who's voting. Is it a public vote, Pat?
Yeah, we can public vote.
See, I think as a public vote, it will naturally come down to one of the back threes, because people love the exciting back three scoring tries. Like, Mac was incredible against Scotland and England, and he was just so exciting every time he caught the ball. Where Doris is doing like good things that are unbelievable to rugby brains, that you see him ruck, you see him carrying, you see him tackling, but that's boring to like the general public. Do you know what I mean? So,
100%.
So I think if the general public are voting, it's going to be one of the back threes. If it's like media and rugby heads and knowledgeable, experienced rugby people, I think it might be Doris. I'm going to go with, just because he's a really good friend of mine, I'm going to go with Hugo Keenan. But Mac was incredible as well.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got to mess everything up now. So let's say, like, obviously we don't want this to happen, but let's say we're at the beginning of the pool stages in France, and Hugo goes down and he's done something to his knee. Touch wood, it would never happen. Okay, but hold on a second. It could happen to any one of those players, and we know who's next up in almost every position. But like, who's next up for Hugo if that happens?
It's a great question.
And we need to go the rest of the campaign with this player in this at 15. Who would it be?
I'd probably go with Jimmy.
Yeah.
But then Jimmy needs more game time at 15.
Yeah. Like, Ross Byrne's obviously the natural fit in for Johnny Sexton at the moment. It's just a straight up answer. It's going to be Ross Byrne. But you wouldn't say, definitely Jimmy O'Brien. Jimmy's an option, but there's no like, a definite replacement. So it is, I don't know. It depends. I think someone might step up in the next couple of months in the finals of the Europeans that might end up playing really well. Someone like
Jordan Larmour. He played 15 there at the weekend.
He played 15. He's played there before. He could step up in the next couple of months. Jimmy's obviously well able to do it, but he wouldn't be like the definite straight up option for me.
I tell you who's coming good at form is Michael Lowry back at Ulster.
Absolutely.
But obviously you're going to need to work up against some hugely physical, the South Africans. And often when Michael Lowry gets the ball, even at URC, I'm like, dear baby Jesus, let him get through this. But actually he set up Robert Balakoon, in his footwork, and he's really coming to the fore. So I think you're right, there's a lot of choices, but the good thing is we have choices there. They just need game time now. And we've only 3 test matches going in.
That's the thing.
So
I think Jimmy will definitely be over in France at the World Cup as well, because he plays every position in the back line except. Actually, he said that he plays scrum half as well.
Does he?
We had him on a podcast. He said he's played scrum half for Leinster as well. So he would be one of the first names on my team sheet.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be over there. Hugo's obviously going to be there. So I think if another guy kind of steps up, as those guys you mentioned, maybe they might slot in. But we don't want Hugo to get injured first of all.
No, of course not.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would have to be Jimmy. I'm just getting concerned with game time at this point.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe Leinster would kind of step up and let him have a run there. But like, why would they do that? I don't know. We're running out of time. I suppose the warm up games would be the time to kind of play with the back three formation and just getting minutes on the park.
Yeah, for sure. And the European Championship coming up now is going to say a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully most people don't get injured, but there's probably going to be a couple of injuries there. So the next few months will tell. But let's move on to the URC that was on the weekend, guys. Mr. Jason O'Mara, you were actually at the Leinster game.
I was.
And I was abroad, and I was following it on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God, they're going to lose, lads. I was like, this does not happen, Leinster.
Never going to lose. Nah.
Were they 20-something?
Were they 17-0 down?
17-0 down. I was like, oh my God. They had a lot of young fellas out playing now, so that was obviously what was happening.
Yeah.
But at any stage, Jason, did you think Leinster are going to lose this game?
Yeah, around half time. And I just saw, I wonder what's going on inside that dressing room, because it can't be pleasant. And then they came out and they were like a different team in the second half. But yeah, that was like 17-0 down at home. I haven't seen that in a long time with the RDS.
They ended up pulling it back to 22-all, and they actually kicked the ball out at the end. Harry Byrne kicked it out to take the draw. What do you think of that decision?
I thought it was okay because it puts Leinster top of the table. They're untenable now. You know, they're safe. It was the right thing to do in that moment of the league. But I just thought I thought it was an excellent game. I thought it was almost like European standard rugby. There was some crazy collisions out there. The speed of some of the backs was incredible. Really intense collisions. I'd almost a touchline seat. I got lucky with the ticket, and you could really feel like those tackles and collisions. You know, it was intense. And actually, I think just the standard of the URC the whole weekend was amazing. Maybe that kind of set the standard, but I thought it was some really good rugby. But yeah, no, look, when Leinster started coming back in the second half, I thought, okay, we're getting back in groove here. And when Leinster get like that, we can kind of score at will, you know. And I thought, it's not impossible. I think we can do this. And of course, Harry Byrne had the kick to win it at the end in 76 minutes, I think, and he was just shy of the post. The wind was crazy, and the conditions weren't great. You know, the drizzle made the ball greasy, and I think it made it look like there was a bit more unforced errors than there would have been otherwise. The ball was greasy, and the wind in the first half in particular was really blustery and really played in the Stormers' favour. And the second half, Leinster didn't have the benefit of that strong wind. Okay. The wind kind of died down. So they were factors in the game as well, I think.
Yeah. What did you make of it, Lindsay? It was a top of the table clash. Like Leinster are top, obviously, and then Stormers were second. So it would have been a massive mental win for Stormers.
Can I just let's go through some of the South African World Cup winners that the Stormers brought with them here, lads? Can we just acknowledge that? So I think a draw is very good. Mr. Kitsoff there with his beautiful red hair was absolutely killing people. Lebach was brilliant. Willemse was there. Duplessis was there. Like, this is an absolute all-round team, and yet Leinster were missing their internationals. Like, other than, like, yes, we've Max Deegan, Scott Penny obviously got on the score sheet. John McKee, a poor turnover at the set piece, but overall, I think for such an inexperienced overall Leinster squad compared to a very, very experienced international Stormers who came with respect, I think it's a great result. And I know you were looking for us to slip up, but I think they're the games that these lads, you know, if they're not getting into camp and they're not getting into international level, and Scott Petty's trying to get back in an orange jersey, these are the games where thankfully they have the option. And obviously Stormers coming into, you know, you do know you said about standards, like, you know, we've Cup weekend coming, Champions Cup this weekend. So I think all teams were making sure they got a good hit out. So to be honest, with the calibre of players, and I'd say it was an exceptional match to be at, I think Leinster did okay. They did really well.
I do love Leinster, let me put it out there. But I was just like, these lads just can't be beaten. I was like, this is the first time they're going to be beaten. Even though it's their second string team, they're probably going to improve much more out of that game now than they would have the other 16 or 15 games they played already, because it was their second string lads that went up against one of the best teams in the world and beat them, and came back from being 17-0 down and didn't beat them but drew with them. And I was like, they're going to learn so much from that. Like, and obviously there's probably going to be a full change of the guard now for the European game coming in, but that's just going to improve the whole Leinster squad. So I'm like, okay, they're going to be even better now.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm like, they're gone. So we've Jordan Larmour, we've mentioned Scott Penny, Max Deegan, Reece Ruddock. Like, who of those boys are going to be retained for this weekend? Do you know, against Ulster?
There could be none of them retained, like, do you know?
I know, and like Reece Ruddock, I saw him take off for that turnover, and he, to be fair, he got back to help Rob Russell turn the ball back over on just inside, just on the try line. Like, their belief and their never die attitude, and every single Leinster player breaking their arse back to get that turnover, I think is exceptional to not only their really brotherhood, their culture and their belief. And like, I just think that's fascinating for me, the buy-in and the mental side of it. You know, there's exceptional athletes there and rugby players, but you cannot, like, that's how you train this, you know, and it's so important to the elite game. And just congratulations. I think it's
they seemed a bit shell-shocked at the beginning. Like, the Stormers came at them from the beginning, and they were like, whoa. I mean, they'd had some weeks off, and, you know, we all have a bit of a Grand Slam hangover, and it was all a bit kind of like, whoa, okay, now we're in this. And for them to come back from behind for the draw, I think, in particular, again, shows, like, great character.
It shows an incredible team. Yeah, they'll just push on from this now, I think, as well. And it was a great 80 minutes for their second string lads to get under their belt while the Grand Slam winners were away.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned it there. Do you think anyone from this Leinster team will get the nod against Ulster, or do you think there's going to be a full change of the guard? Like, will Doris Van der Fleer and Conan come into the back row and change it all up, or do you think some lads will be rewarded like a Rhys Ruddock?
I would hope to see Rhys Ruddock rewarded, and Scott Penny as well, because I think they're really integral to bringing on the younger lads as well. You know, in their leadership styles and like their work ethic, and even Scott Penny, since turn of Christmas, like his stats are off the charts. So I mean, there's not a lot more like, and I would hate to be Leo Cullen and Stuart Lancaster picking this week, because there's a fine balance between rewarding lads for their performances over the last couple of weeks. And look, the lads are coming off a Grand Slam. I think they have to be managed as well. Like Caelan Doris has had I agree with you. I think he kind of probably tapered off towards the end, but that's, I think, just with load. So I think the longevity and the success this season, I think maybe rest of the lads that have come back off international duty and trust a couple of them in. Like Rhys Ruddock is a workhorse. I'd play him at 6 and start Scott Penny at 7, and maybe put Doris in there at 8. Kind of mix it up.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll have much of a dip no matter what the selection is, to be honest. And Ulster are coming really good. They had a really good win over the weekend. They're up in Ravenhill, so it'll be one to watch anyway.
It will be for sure. Well, Jason, you did a bit of coaching over in Santa Monica, so you've been picking teams. If you were Leo Cullen or Stuart Lancaster and you were picking for the Champions Cup this weekend against Ulster, would you bring in all your Grand Slam winners, or would you keep some of your second string lads?
I think you have to reward some of the guys who have been working so hard in the URC. So I think you have to retain some of them, and I think it's just good team culture to do that. That hard work is rewarded, even if you're not wearing a green shirt, But at the same time, I think it's a really important game that, from a Leinster point of view, they have to win. So I think he would probably bring, and obviously, there's going to be some injuries as well. Like, I mean, are they going to play? Like Kelleher's out, Sexton's out. Who else? Sheehan is probably kind of, I don't know what's going on with his shoulder, but there's going to be quite a few of them unavailable as well. So I don't really know. My feeling is he'll probably bring a couple in and kind of let it filter with the established guys who are there. I don't know if Rhys Ruddock will be playing, for example, but there'll be probably a couple of others, especially in the pack, that'll retain their positions.
Yeah, for sure. You probably presume like Henshaw will start because he's been out for so long, just got back in there, played the last game.
He needs more game time.
Yeah, Gary Ringrose might be rested because he's still recovering from that concussion. Do you know what I mean? He might play because he's gone past the return to play protocols. But
would you play Ringrose?
No.
You leave him
I think
off
I'd rest him now. I think he's done well, but again, I think load, and I think he's been through an awful lot. He's had a really good championship. He's had a really good time at Leinster, but I think it's time now.
He's had a great time in his parents' basement, apparently.
Do you know what? I had such FOMO when they got off that minibus. I was like, damn, I wish we had the invite. But look, maybe after they win a European Championship, Champions Cup, that'd be nice.
That was such a
Gary,
funny
don't
video.
forget us.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, we're referring to a video going around social media of the Irish Grand Slam winners arriving up at Gary Ringrose's house, supposedly, and just going in and getting him involved with the drinking because he was trying to take a day off after winning.
Yeah, I think his dad was involved with that. He's like, oh, come on over, lads, and let us in. So, yeah, it was good old crack.
I love that. It's so Irish, isn't it?
So Irish. Yeah. Like, they look like a stag party.
4th day drinking, do you know what I mean?
They didn't look good.
They deserve it.
100%.
They deserve it for sure. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the West of Ireland, guys. Connacht were playing against Edinburgh, and they got another big win, 41-26. It was their 5th league win in a row, and it brings them up to 6th in the URC standings. So they've won, I think they're on the same amount of wins as Munster. Connacht are on 9 wins out of 16, just behind Munster in the URC table. So it's a big jump up for them. Did you catch it, Lindsay?
I just saw the highlights. I thought Caelan Blade was exceptional. I thought, again, we always speak about their inconsistency, but to put those 5 wins together, I think is really going to, hopefully they can continue on into now the Challenge Cup and finish off in the URC and get some playoff places. So I thought there's some, again, variation of tries, good handling, never say die. And Edinburgh are good. Like, Edinburgh are a really good outfit, so really good home win.
Yeah, it was for sure. Caelan Blake got another hat-trick of the season. He's just playing exceptional.
His little chip through at the end, I was like, this is a man, like, he's like full of confidence, and his nice little celebration at the end. But like, there are moments where sometimes you try them and it don't come off and you look like a bit of an idiot, but like, he's just, he had a snipe at the ruck, he'd a intercept try, and then he'd a little grubber, and it was a really good choice because I think he was outnumbered 3-1, so a little grubber through and he finished it off. So good bounce of the ball for him. So yeah, and it's nice to see, I think, because to be fair, he's had really good season. And then we're the competition at 9, which again is another area where you're like, who's going to be in or out? And, you know, he's probably another guy who you'd love to see get a chance, but I don't see him even as good as he's playing, probably heading on the plane to France. And that's just the really good place Irish rugby are in right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Connacht have kind of pulled it together. Like, Colin Ford had an incredible game. He scored a lovely try, broke through the middle, beat 5 defenders, scored in the corner. It was an incredible finish. Jared Butler stepped up for his team again. Conor Oliver had a good game, even though he was sin-binned. And Connacht actually scored when Conor Oliver was off the pitch, like, which shows their cohesiveness and that they're really together as a team. But they're away to Benetton on the weekend in the Challenge Cup. Like, how do you think they'll get on there? Benetton are a decent team.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because they're both a bit inconsistent, so it's hard to know which teams are going to show up. Got to say, I got to also mention Porch's marking of Darcy Graham was incredible. Like, Darcy Graham is world-class winger, and Porch just wasn't giving him any room. Hard to do, and I thought he was my player of the match. I just thought he was brilliant. Yeah, it's just about form. It's like trying to just if Connacht could come up with that performance every week, I'd say they have every chance of, you know, doing whatever it is they want to do this season. But there just seems to be this slight inconsistency. I also think they love playing at home because that new pitch really suits them. And it was the first time I saw all those elements come together in that game of the weekend. And it
wasn't raining.
And it wasn't raining.
I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Looked like a lovely day.
And it looked like they were playing the game they wanted to play. Of course, you know, Edinburgh wouldn't have wanted that to happen. But they looked in form. They looked strong. They looked confident. Kane Blade leading them. And they looked like they could score tries for fun. And I just hope that's the same Connacht that goes up against Benetton next week. Because Benetton can be, you know, they're
very good at home.
Underestimated at your peril.
Yeah, for sure. Benetton are doing well this year, so I do hope Connacht go over. As you said, Jason, they're very inconsistent, and they're not going to be in the sports ground. So we hope they bring that standard over to Italy next week. We'll be watching. But we better talk about my very own Munster lads. I don't really want to talk to them. Pat's making me do it, though. They were playing in Thomond Park in the weekend, and at one stage, I think was it 31-0 down?
31-0 down, yeah.
Oh, you have that written down there in your notebook too, to reinforce it.
All I actually have on this page is 31-0 down.
And then what was the only real positive was that a couple of the big names stepped up, like Gavin Coombs, Craig Casey, and they got their tries, and they kind of started rallying to come back, but it was way too late by that stage. 31-0 down is too far to come back, especially at home, and Glasgow got a win 38-26.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
Did Munster play badly? Because I know Graham Roundtree basically didn't sugarcoat his halftime talk nor his post-match. Or are we being unfair on Glasgow and they actually played some really bloody good rugby? Fraser Brown with the little offloads inside. Like, they played some really nice stuff. Now, it did look like you guys were like, oh, hang on, I got this tackle. Like, you were a step behind. And for a couple of the players who were involved in Grand Slam celebrations, I'd hate to be playing after a week of on the booze, rightly so. But yeah, I'm not sure we're being unfair on Glasgow now.
Yeah. Glasgow did come out the blocks fast. They were moving the ball beautifully. They were really good footwork. But Munster just seemed lethargic. They weren't cohesive in their defensive line. At one stage, I think David Coyne shot out and he opened up a gap. Another stage, Glasgow went through and Mike Haley was just kind of sat there and he just ran around him as if Mike Haley wasn't ready to tackle. And I was like, this is so uncharacteristic. What are they doing? They just seemed not ready to go, and they just got caught in the hop in the first half. And I was like, this is sad. Like, at home, Thomond Park, Munster, like, and they've been doing so well. But they'll take a few positives out of it. But Graham Roundtree was not happy, and I like that he didn't sugarcoat it. So he'd probably be lambasting him this morning now, down in Limerick, down in UL.
Well, you're going away now, aren't you? Away in Durban now this weekend. Like, it's not an easy, trip to go, and I don't think it's either going to go one or two ways for you. And we kind of said this with young guys like Calvin Nash needs a shout out. I thought he had a really good game for you guys, and I said has gone from strength to strength week in, week out. But I think it would have been nice for you to get a really good home win going away, because like that's probably the toughest round for all the Irish teams is your guys' trip to Durban now this weekend. So I'm hoping it's a boot up the arse that he's needed, and you can go out there, but hopefully it's not going to knock your confidence. You know?
Exactly. The frustrating thing is in the second half they look like a completely different team. When they want to play, they can play, and in defence and attack. And it's like in the first half, it just didn't show up. And you just wonder why that is. Why weren't they ready for that, you know? Why weren't they even tackling? They were slipping off all these tackles. They were kind of
so high on tackles as well.
School level tackles. Yeah, I mean, that defence should hold. Something's not right there, you know. Because that was a result I feel like they could have got if their first half was as good as their second.
Definitely, for sure.
They can play really intense, fast, clinical rugby, which is really good to watch. You're just wondering why it's so fitful, you know. Now, in fairness, Glasgow were really good.
But they kind of overpowered, didn't they? Like, like Munster have developed into a nice outfit that are physical, win their ball, but they're now moving balls. You know, they've increased their speed of ruck and they're not afraid to offload, and especially in the loose. Like, so we've been privileged to some really good examples of how they can play this season. But yeah, it was just they were uncharacteristically out of form now this weekend, and badly so in the first half.
But that's two Irish teams that were down at half time, like really down.
Yeah.
And I think Munster just that little bit. It's just a try or two too many. In that first half, just too much.
I think it's what you alluded to a while ago, Jason, with the Grand Slam hangover. Maybe they were all just still thinking about the points they were having and enjoying the couple of weeks, which they were allowed to do. You have to do that. That's the part of rugby, is enjoying your wins. Otherwise, there's no crack. So Leinster kind of just about got through, got their draw. Munster, not good enough lads, but hopefully now we pull up the socks and have a good game now away in Durban against a fully loaded Sharks this weekend. How do you think they'll get on there, Lindsay?
Oh, I hate to say it. Obviously, I do hope they win, but going away now to South Africa against a fully loaded team who are, like, let's be honest, the South Africans come out this weekend, the URC fully loaded, getting all their internationals back, and I think they mean business this weekend. So I hope for a Munster win, but it'd be the one kind of.
It's a tough fixture.
It's a tough fixture.
Like, Munster used to be one of the giants of European rugby, and they've obviously fallen off a little bit, Jason. How do you think they'll get on going down to Sharks? Do you think they're good enough to get a win down there?
I think if they can take the energy that they kind of ended that Glasgow game with and take it with them down there and begin, you know, from the kickoff like that, then I think they will. I mean, we know that they have the talent. We know they're still finding their form, but they have these patches, these purple patches, of real brilliance. And it's just about like trying to string that together. And if they can do that, I mean, it would be very Munster to go down there and win against the Sharks. So yeah, like Lindsay, I'd hope for a win, but at the moment, there's not much evidence to support that.
Yeah,
Joe, I think they can get a win down there. We're back on track with you winning a Champions Cup.
Yeah, I said at the start of the season, Jason, when Munster were all the way down the bottom of the URC table, I was like, watch this, they're going to do well in the European Cup. Yeah. I'm telling you. So at the moment, they're going okay. If they get a win down in Durban next week, it's still on. And
but God help you next Monday if they don't.
I know, yeah. I won't be going in. Oh, anyway,
I'll be watching that podcast.
Yeah.
So you're obviously an avid rugby fan. You watch it intently, all the different teams, all the different leagues. What do you think is the reason Munster have fallen off and so far behind Leinster at the moment? Do you think it comes down to the ground level of like school system, or do you think it's the top level of the coaching and everything?
I don't know. It's just been so frustrating, and you know, obviously I have to be careful what I say as a Leinster fan because I'll be jumped on. But I don't know. It feels like we've been using a lot of excuses, you know, and it's like, oh, it's Van Gran and it's Roundtree, and it's just give them a chance to settle in, bed in. Oh, there's new talent coming up. We have to give them a chance. We have to believe in the future and all that stuff. And I think all that's true. But at a certain point, I think you have to like draw a line under it and go, okay, we're Munster, and we have a way of playing. We have a culture here, and you know, when we play at home, we don't put in a defensive performance like that. Like, we just don't. End of story. And I think the players have to take responsibility for that. Obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what their defensive systems are. We don't know how they're coached day to day. And we don't know really what, you know, I mean, I think we've seen flashes of what Roundtree is trying to do with them, but we haven't really yet seen a complete 80-minute performance out of them. So we don't really know. So I think it's about time now that Munster needs to kind of step into its own and as a team and just say, this is who we are, this is what we do. Regardless of, you know, circumstances, coaching tickets and players and all that stuff, and really just kind of come together and go back to that Munster culture that we know so well.
Create that ethos, 100%.
But that's just my take on it. I know I'm going to get
No,
matter
I
what I
agree
say,
with
I'm
you,
going to get
Shane.
destroyed.
No, yeah,
so.
we've like if you look at Ruan Quinn, which I think Jason did an interview with last week, you know, he has been capped with Munster. He obviously there was part of the under-20 Grand Slam and the team. Alex Kendellen has been there now senior and would have captained the under-20. So there's a huge amount of talent in Munster, but it just, so we have a blueprint that really works for Leinster with the school system. That's not the same blueprint that's going to work for Munster Rugby. So how do you identify these talented young men and make sure they're in academies, or make sure they're identified so they can get into academies and get into hubs? Because if you look at like so many talented GAA players, and heard her saying the likes of Waterford, which are uncharacteristically not orthodox rugby counties, how do we identify the talent that don't meet the orthodox GAA environment there and get them into rugby? Do you know, because they're, and same with Tipperary, like, so it has to, you have to find a blueprint that works, but there's so many good men there. And I think if we've said this before, we can just blood the depth that's underneath Munster right now. They will be up with Leinster. So you can not be relying on the likes of Killer or Coombs or Casey coming back from an international duty, and give them that week off to still get you over the line in the URC, do you know, with the talent that's there. And I think maybe that was maybe a missed thing this weekend, to maybe just trust in the younger lads that have had performances throughout the year, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I can only imagine, I was looking at Killer and I was like, oh my God, I can imagine now being on the ripping on that high and then coming back, you know, to sober up at a URC, and you're just not in the humour, because rightly so, you deserve to, you know, celebrate, but if that's your job, you have to just come back in and do it. So, but I've been there, you're just like, oh God, it's terrible, do you know, to just get the mind switched back on. So there is good days for Munster Rugby, just need to be patient.
I do think so as well, and I feel like it's a little bit unfair that we compare them to the team of the past, the 06 team, the 08 team, with the O'Connells and the O'Callaghan's and the O'Gara's and all these guys, because they were more senior men, if that's a nice way to put it, where this Munster team was full of young fellas coming up through the ranks, where like you just named Gavin Coombs and Casey, and we also have Jack Crowley and these guys coming down from international duty, but they're still young fellas, they're still in their early 20s.
Oh, 100%. Shane Daly, Calvin Nash, like these are guys who were just on a tour. Shane Daly obviously was in with Sevens with you guys as well, so they're just finding their feet in development, you know, and they're kind of, in some weeks there's no hiding place, but you have to give them that hiding place and that transitionary time with the experience and the youth to bed them in, and that's all there is. They're just a little bit behind.
I think it comes back to what Jason's saying, is they have to just rebuild that ethos and that mindset, and just maybe the next couple of seasons is when we're going to see them back challenging with a Leinster, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that thing where you go down to Thomond Park and you expect a level of performance, you know, like this, especially in defence. Like you just, it's our house, and we're just gonna, like, when we're at home, this is what we do. Yeah. And I just feel somehow there's been like a lot of excuses and a lot of things kind of lost in the shuffle, and there just has to be a bottom line there, I think.
Completely agree with you. I'll bring that back to Munster and let you know
if you wouldn't mind. I'll be fine now walking down the street after this.
No, you're all good. I completely agree with what you're saying, 100%. Now, up to the north of Ireland, Ulster were playing Stormers, and they got a good win, 32-23. Robert Balakoon was on flying form, scoring tries for fun. His pace and power is just next level, Lindsay.
Yeah, it's good to see him back now. He's had a loss, and he was obviously at the peak. When he was at his peak, he was in with Ireland and he was doing exciting things, you know. And so it's good to see him back, and he looked like he was enjoying himself. And Michael Lowry set him up, I think, for both of his tries, did he? So if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, they had a good win. And John Cooney with a really big kick there at the end. You know, it's good to see him. Nathan Doak. You know, it was lovely actually. Tom Stewart scored a great one of his 3 tries off them all. But the Maul was kind of struggling. And next of all, in goes Balakoon and in goes Nathan Doak. And I was like, no, that's the Ulster we're used to seeing. Like, and you're not used to backs obviously being in a mall, but it was refreshing that they just got stuck in and got over the line. And yeah, it was a good win, and nice hat trick by Tom Stewart as well. He was one of the top try scorers in the URC, and still,
I think he's up to 13 tries this season now. Like, what the hell? And he's a hooker, and he's only a young fella.
He's only 22.
Yeah,
I think.
And 3 tries on the weekend, and they're decent tries. They're smart tries. The one where he was a scrum half and he sniped from the back and scored in the corner, and obviously he's getting a lot of maul tries as well. But that's all part of it.
The thing in the maul tries is, and any like aspiring hooker, he keeps his head up, so he doesn't change his bind. He keeps his shoulder on the ball, but he keeps his head up, so he's always watching for where the defenders are, and that's a big key thing in rugby. If we're not watching rucks, you need to get your eyes up to see where your opposition players are, and I think that's really smart. And you could see that in all his maul tries. He was just, waiting to see where this gap was, and he's a smart guy. He deserved him.
When you played in the pack, Jason, would you agree with that?
Yeah. We didn't like back then. There wasn't that kind of those one out assault on the try line. There's pop and go, pick and go, all that kind of stuff. I find that stuff quite exciting. I'd love to have played like that. I'd love to have tried to defend something like that. That kind of a wave of attack. You're just relentless, putting your body on the line. Like it's amazing to watch. I think there was one. Was there one Tom Stewart try where they had to check it, and from behind the ruck, it was just this little hand and a ball popped out and just on the line. Like it was brilliant.
He's a very smart player now.
Very smart.
Yeah, so he's going to be coming in behind Heffernan and who's the other one? Dan Sheehan.
Yeah.
And then we go Tom Stewart. So our hookers in Ireland are in a great spot, aren't they?
Yeah, considering we lost both hookers there against Scotland, and obviously, when you've World Player of the Year just coming in there throwing darts for fun. But it's nice to know we actually have a qualified hooker in the background, who's well able to play.
He's definitely put his hand up for that World Cup squad, Tom Stewart.
Yeah, and Rob Herring, who scored against England there to finish the game off, so... Jesus, lads, we might have to offload more players to other nations.
Yeah, true. So a big moment in the game was when Bismarck Duplessis got yellow carded for a clean out on Billy Burns. The TMO got involved because Billy Burns was lying on the floor. Now Jake White had something to say about it. I don't know if you've heard. He was livid and he wants yellow cards to be brought in for diving. So he's kind of referring to soccer. What? And he said it's something we'll have to look at going forward, because what you don't want is a player lying down every time he gets cleaned out and he makes the TMO have a look. So what do you make of those comments?
Have you seen the size of Duplessis? He's massive. And Billy Burns had his back to him. And he just drove it right into his shoulder blades with his shoulder and didn't wrap the arms. How is that going down and acting? I don't know.
No, and tens.
That looked like
tens
pain.
are a bit watery as well.
Well, they are a bit, but
Billy Burns is a small
I'm going to get
fella,
slated for that. Sorry to all the tens, but you're.
But he didn't even see it coming. In fairness, I don't know.
And I've met Billy Burns. I've actually played against him, and he's not a soft lad. So I think Jake White was just a bit annoyed, because I don't think rugby's getting to that point at all where anyone's diving and stuff. It's too tough a sport.
You would not live it down for months, years.
Your own team would kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. They'd be like, "I'm embarrassed. Get the hell up." Do you know what I mean? So there is no hiding place for from either team. You just get no love if you're kind of being, no offense, an actor. You know what I mean?
I'm taking it.
Very good, actually.
No, I think Jake White's just typically the South Africans are renowned for their physicality, and I'm sure they don't hold any punches, so I'm sure he just took an opportunity to get a dig in.
I even think some of the refs along the last couple of years have even said to players that have fallen over, don't fake it, we're not for soccer here. I think Nigel Owens has said it a couple of times and stuff, so I don't think you'll ever get there, Jason, with acting on the rugby pitch.
The thing is, if you're really, really good, you'll get away with it. You have to really commit to the role, You have to make sure all the medics come on, but you can't overdo it, or else you'll end up going off for an HIA. So it's trying to get that balance.
I feel like you'd have one of them, those capsules of blood, and Jason just sitting there, dramatically ooze out of his mouth. I lost a tooth or something.
But
What your future career for you, teaching fellas how to dive?
Guys, if you're going to go down, you have to really kind of really believe it. Got to go for the truth. Method acting.
There's a few tears going down your eyes. Oh, good stuff. All right, so Ulster are away to Leinster this weekend, and it's on in Dublin. Do we think they have a shot, lads, in the Champions Cup? Be honest.
I don't know. I think the last one I remember at the Aviva between Leinster and Ulster, Jacob Stockdale dropped the ball on the try line. Do you remember that one?
I do, yeah.
And that was close. And it was kind of the same as this. Don't think people were expecting it to be that close, but Ulster really brought it. And I think Ulster could really challenge Leinster.
You think?
Yeah, I do.
You agree with that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think cup competitions are a bit different, a bit like championships, aren't they? And I think the fact that Leinster are being credited for that, that turning point in Ulster's season, in the RDS where we came back from that win, in a very confident against a confident Ulster team. I think that was the turning point. They went on a really dip. I think they're on a good point where they're coming up nicely. They're confident. They've depth of squad. They've some really world-class players. They've got great players back from injury. And I think Leinster will get over the line. But I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be kind of last 20 minutes job. And I think the Leinster, depending on selection, Leinster probably benching a couple of big players will do the trick. And I think the mental side of it will get them over the line. The habit of winning and knowing how to win under tough conditions will get them. But I think Ulster will come here looking for a scalp.
Yeah, Ulster have done it before.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? They've come down to the RDS, they've beat Leinster, so they know how to get it done. And I presume that will be in the back of Leinster's mind, being like, okay, Ulster have beaten us on our own turf before, but it's Champions Cup rugby and Leinster win Cup rugby. You know what I mean? So I do think Leinster are going to win. I think they're going to win a bit handier than you're suggesting, just because they're going to have their big boys back and because it's like Champions Cup time. And I know from talking to a couple of Leinster lads in the background is that they're so focused on winning the Champions Cup because they lost against La Rochelle last year. It's pain for them, like talking about it. You can see it. They get so riled up, and this is a stepping stone to get to that point. And they have all their finals in Dublin, so they want to keep winning. They want to build the momentum to get all the way to that grand final in the Aviva Stadium in May. So I just can't see Leinster being beaten.
I can't, but if you look at it really, if we're fair, there's going to be very little disruption to the selection of Ulster, who have been able to kind of really put some consistency together. Now you have the question of how do Leinster bring back in their internationals without disrupting the lads who've been there.
Yeah.
I don't see it being an issue, because I think with Leinster, there's that. What we've seen in that Irish team is that they have each other's back, and whoever is the selection, they're behind them 100%. But I think that's going to be the management now for this, and I think the fact that Ulster have a burning desire, they will come here looking to scalp Leinster for many reasons, So
Of course
I think it'll be a great match.
Formidable.
100%.
Like, they're really tough.
You know?
They do have a great squad. When everyone's fit, they have an unbelievable team. So it will be a great game. We'll definitely one of the ones to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about the Women's Six Nations. We'll be back to talk about it in a couple of seconds, because we just want to listen to Patch Chat with Energia ambassador and Ireland fullback and Grand Slam winner Hugo Keenan. Have a listen to this.
How's it going? How are you getting on?
I'm all good. Yeah, can't complain.
Listen, how's everything? Like, you're doing okay after the knock in the head at the weekend. I saw you, at least you're up celebrating afterwards and all. So
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm all good. It was disappointing I couldn't get back out there on the pitch. It was a bit of a tight call with the HIA, but a bit of a stressful last second half watching on the sidelines. I don't particularly enjoy it. I prefer being out there. But no, brilliant. The lads did a job, and I was able to enjoy the celebrations and had a great few days. So it was a special weekend.
I was gonna ask you, like, there was a great one I saw. There was a couple of pictures I was gonna ask you about. One of them was I don't know whether you're in it with a bunch of mates, but one of the guys had an England jersey on, and I didn't know whether you knew him at all. He was like, you're kind of in with a bunch of mates like that, giving a thumbs up. Are they your friends?
So about 4 of them are. So 2 twins I'd be good mates with in school, one of their girlfriends and their brother. So I think I knew 4 of them. The guy in the English jersey, I can't say I knew now. I didn't even notice him in the picture. But no, that was a really special moment, I suppose, walking around the Viva in front of the 52,000 who stuck around, and seeing so many familiar faces and friends and family in the crowd was really cool. So it was a great picture.
And then I was just kind of wondering, like, you like, what were you doing then for the 2018 Grand Slam, like when Ireland won over in Twickenham? That was like Paddy's Day weekend as well. Can you remember what you were doing for it, where you were?
I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was 100% watching. I know, supporting all the lads. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I'm not good with those sort of things.
You were, I don't know. I was going to say you could have been in a bar, but we won't sting you.
Could well have.
There's one now I saw with another great one with Jimmy O'Brien and Caelan Doris and all the family around as well on the pitch. What does it kind of mean for you to kind of come through with those lads and kind of be sharing those kind of moments as well?
Yeah, it was incredible having our parents and family on the pitch. Like, that's the reason why you do it, for those moments and those days. So that was really cool. And to be on the pitch with Jimmy, Kaelin, James, Porter, all lads who I've sort of come up with through the age grade levels, and in Blackrock as well, is really special. And I think that's some of the reasons why we've got such a close knit bond in camp and in the Irish squad, that there's so many people in those in that situation that you've gone through the ranks with, and yeah, it makes it extra special.
There's a couple more now just from me. One of them was I remember I was up in the stands when and watching it, lucky enough to be at the Aviva for the game as well. But the collision you had with Freddie as well, like for me, like I thought the thing that stood out for me was immediately he kind of reached out, put his hand out to say he was sorry to you. I was wondering, did he have a chance to catch up with you at all during the game or after the game at all?
Yeah, like he was very apologetic. Like I caught him after the game on the pitch, and straight away just apologized. But it was one of those rugby incidents. It was very unfortunate for him. Like, I didn't realize at the time, but he obviously checked on me pretty straight away, because it was a good whack. And yes, chatting to him after, so he's a sound lad, and it's probably a good thing he got off the siding as well. Probably a fair call, because it was a accidental collision at the end of the day, and I fell for him as another fullback.
Yeah, definitely. And then I was kind of asking, and this is just pure timing as well, but I was like saying you're up for the player of the championship, which is an amazing honor for you, like, and to be listed in there. But I was saying Hugo Keenan is out here campaigning today for player of the championship. Is that going on?
Far from it. I think, as far as I've been told from the lads earlier, voting's closed, but no, it'll hopefully go to either Mac or Kaelin now. They've both been brilliant. Like, it could have been a number of others on that Irish team. I think there's a few brilliant performers throughout the campaign as well. So it'd be nice if someone in green got it now, but. Yeah, the main thing is we got the Grand Slam. That's the only one I care about.
And then the last one for me is just you're going back to Leinster. How tough is it going to be now to get that jersey back whenever you do get cleared to play again?
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it, and that's why it's such a good environment to be involved in. There's lads playing so well in that jersey, and all of them, and they've had a few great wins over the last while against Edinburgh and Cardiff, and a big game on Friday against Stormers as well. So yeah, lads will be chomping at the bit to get that 15 jersey, and I'll be in the same boat.
Perfect. Well, listen, it was great talking to you, and good to see you're doing so well and looking a bit tougher now than the last time I was speaking to you.
Exactly, as ugly as ever, Pat.
So the Women's Six Nations has kicked off, and initially, Lindsay, I think you said that it would be good for us to aim for third place. We played Wales in the first game. Doesn't look like we're going to be getting third place behind England and France after that game. What was the score?
31-5.
31-5 away to Wales.
Yeah,
so
we were like Munster. We were 26-0 down at half time. And
not expected, is it?
No, I think it was always going to, like, no one knows where you're going to be. Like, you know, even the Irish lads could have went to Wales in the first round, and you need a win to start your campaign off in the right foot. So you never know where you are in a Six Nations since in that first round. We knew it was always going to be a huge amount of experience in a Wales squad. They were over 12 months ahead in their international and professional contracts, not international. And they bolstered over 400 caps in their squad, and we only had just under 200, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So we had an average of 7 caps per player compared to them. So, yeah, I firstly want to send a lot of love to the girls who were there. I've been there, you've been there. It's a tough day when you're really trying your best. So I hope the girls are listening, but not listening at the same time, when they're just really have a tight circle and keeping the outside noise out. But at the same time, it's a complex situation. Like, our sevens are gone, a lot of them who started in last year's first round loss to Wales. Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe, Stacey, Lucy Mulhall, Eve Higgins, all unavailable because they're away with sevens. Understandably so, because they're vying for an Olympic place in their World Series rankings. They're 5th at the minute. But then we've also lost a number of experienced players. Katie O'Dwyer, Eve McDermott are two of my friends and teammates, and who I played with at international level, who weren't in a position to take contracts and continue on. And I just think that's a trick miss, because they're hugely experienced both on and off the pitch to help younger players transition in and build on the tour to Japan and last year. And then selections were strange. And I thought, to be honest, I'm not going to take away from Wales. I thought you could really see their 12 months and what they've done with their professional contracts. They've over 9 of them playing with Gloucester, so they're full-time professional in a really world-class league. They had great variation of tries. They had a bonus point wrapped up within 30 minutes. So it's really complex, to be honest. You know, we could talk with the next hour. I will not, Pat, okay? I won't. But, yeah, and I thought some of the selections, I thought Cy McGrath, she's one for the future. She's absolutely exceptional. I thought she held herself well, but, you know, at times I'm looking at her rounded back. I've been there as a loose head, and when you're under pressure in the scrum, it's never a nice day. And yet you've Catherine Buggy in the squad who's playing with Gloucester, hugely experienced. And as I said, there's players who weren't even available for selection. Like, you know, last year we would have started with Linda at loose, Katie at tight, and then Niamh Jones and that's a world-class front row. And we just didn't have that this year, but we didn't match their physicality. We weren't winning collision. We weren't getting gain lines, so we're not getting any ball. We're not putting phases together. It just, second half was good, but if I'm honest, I probably think Wales let us off. And I would have liked for them to put more on us, not to punish Ireland, but to actually showcase what can be done when investment is made to women's squad. And I suppose Welsh rugby has been through the mill right now, has been really under a lot of poor media, and I suppose it was a nice day for them, outside of obviously being a ridiculously loyal Irish fan who wanted the girls to do well. But for them, it was nice to see Welsh rugby being showcasing exactly what they can do. So a sad day. And as I said, I'm sending a lot of love and support to the girls. I don't think it was anything to do with their want or desire. I think there was maybe some poor choices and poor preparation, and there's a pressure to make that W15, and I think that's unfair pressure, you know, because you do want to blood the likes of Sive and Niamh O'Dowd, and Derv Nickavard was exceptional when she came on. Thought Hannah O'Connor did well when she came on. I thought Dana O'Brien was exceptional when she came on. So we've some really positive lights there, but I just don't think we were ready. We haven't prepared well with the pressure of the World 15. So just to explain to people, we've a new competition. We've 3 tiers. We'll be locked in for 3 years, and it depends on where we finish in this championship. So if we finish in the top 3, we're in tier 1. I think it's 4th and 5th is tier 2, and then whoever comes last will be in tier 3. So you're locked in for 3 years. We need to, at a minimum, be at tier 2 to really reap the rewards of really high quality test matches, and that's going to facilitate our trajectory and preparation for World Cup. And I think the World Cup will be based on the rankings of the World 15, this new competition. So, as I said, all I can say is it's complex.
So where they finish in the Six Nations this year,
we'll lock them into that
for
new
3 years. What tier they're going to be?
3 years.
What?
Yep.
No way. It's a bit
And
of a mad
that's
system.
where the unfair pressure is. So you want to blood new players, and it doesn't really matter then where you are in a championship, really. Do you know? Because you want to see small incremental changes over that championship to know where you are. You're always goal setting then week by week and game by game. But unfortunately, we're under this pressure now to finish in the top 3, we would hope. And if not, we really want 4th. But like looking at Twitter before the game, a lot of outside people and media in England and around, Europe had us as actually bottom, below Scotland, which I'm surprised at considering they're missing so many high-class players. Emma Wassell, Sarah Bonner's out. Rona Lloyd was away with 7. So we did, you know, and they got absolutely trounced by England 58-7. So
say, for argument's sake, if Ireland are in tier 3 after finishing below 4th this year, but end up winning the Six Nations next year, they're still going to be in tier 3.
still in tier 3.
That is a mad system.
But that, how do you expect to win a championship if you're in tier 3 against, without being disrespectful, but really, really transitionary teams who are in that pool and probably only getting into international 15s, you know what I mean? So how do you expect to win a championship if you're playing against really inexperienced opposition? And this is where we need, like, yes to experience, yes we've talented, skillful players, but how do we facilitate their development if we're not getting high class test matches? And you could really see, like, Tua Pilatu, whose cousins of the Vunipolas, was exceptional at tie head for Wales. Like, she's 19, but she was on the back of a World Cup. You're away in the World Cup for 6 weeks, you get that culture building and that team building, and you're just immersing yourself in a bubble. we could not match that. Every other team in the Six Nations other than us was at the Women's World Cup in New Zealand, and I think these were all the points pre this championship that they were all going to go against Ireland. And unfortunately it looked like in round one, and hopefully I'm wrong going through the championship, but we're really starting on the back foot now.
Yeah, and it's not an easy game up next with France at Musgrave Park, which is going to be a big game. France are class. But Jason, you're a rugby fan. What do you think needs to be done? Or I don't know if you're watching the women's rugby at all, but what do you feel? Do you think they need more love and more experience and full-time contracts, or what do you think the issue is?
Yeah, all of that. I think it needs all the support it can possibly get. I'd say, look, just to be on the, try and be optimistic at least, like just glass half full. Like, I think we're kind of floating around rock bottom here at this point, which is it's not such a bad thing really. We didn't make it to the World Cup, and it's clear that the other teams have moved on and we haven't. And even though we've had a coaching change, and even though we've introduced these contracts, it's just not enough time's gone by to see any of those changes just yet. Yeah. I don't think. And I think this is going to be a really tough tournament for the women. I really do. I think maybe, dare I say it, but like, I think 1 or 2 wins would be good. I think we need to look at beating Scotland and Italy. And I think if they can do that, maybe we can build something off the back of that, and moving forward, only get better, because there is only one way to go, and that way is up. And I think that's maybe the attitude we should have here. I think there are other teams there who, I don't think, England's time at the very top won't last forever, and same with New Zealand. They're ahead of everybody, but everybody's going to slowly come up to meet their level, and it's just a matter of time. So I think we just have to be patient with the Irish women's team, with the Irish women's setup, the whole contract system, even that tiering system, which I hadn't heard about, which is, I don't think tiering's a good idea anyway, but like, that's mad. And you're right, like, what if we could win it next year and still be in tier 3? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But I think the good news is the only way is up. So I think the best thing to do is just get behind the women's game and just give it all the support and love it, and like chart this progress, because it starts here,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And my heart goes out to the girls, because I feel like they're bringing a really good attitude. I know some of them, and they want to perform for Ireland, but I just don't feel like they're giving what they need to make that happen. You know what I mean? And even Greg Williams seems to be getting frustrated. He said the elephant in the room was the sevens players missing, which is obviously a big issue that they need to deal with. But they seem to now decided to separate the women's sevens and the 15s, and they're not mixing them anymore. Is that what's happening, Lindsay?
Yeah. Because obviously the focus now for the sevens is that Olympic cycle and not having to go through a qualification, which they missed out on the last cycle, which you guys made and did us so proud. So this was always the argument. This is the historic argument that the calendars don't align for us to facilitate both the athletes that are, dual athletes for both sevens and 15s. And again, it's complex. So you've really talented, and it is about positivity. And we're saying the same point. Unfortunately, it's time that we probably don't have right now to allow the development of both programs. And I think we've enough skillful athletes and we've enough skillful backroom staff, and the union have so much money. And we've seen that with the lads, the sevens, the 20s, the senior men's. And Greg McWilliams has said that it's very hard to start a competition when off the back of success the week before, where you've double the Grand Slam winning. But this has been an issue for us, that some of our more talented athletes play sevens, and we haven't given the love and deepened the pool for 15s. We have done that now. I'm so excited to see some of the talent we've unearthed. They just haven't had enough test games. They haven't had enough time. And just to quickly, before we finish, to build on your point, tonight we start our soccer campaign against France. A story was in the paper, read yesterday, about Own Hand, asking the Irish public, and all 53 plus of them really played in a win in 1981. One of the few we've gotten in a 3-2 win, if I'm not mistaken, Pat, you might remember. Frank Stapleton scored. So I'm asking the same thing of the Irish public this Saturday. Get to Musgrave Park, 2:15, get behind these girls. They absolutely deserve it. France don't travel well. We will need an extra man, and that, what a great place in Musgrave Park, the home of one of the other homes of Munster rugby. And I want us to get behind the girls, because they do deserve it. Their endeavour, their love for that jersey, they wouldn't have wanted to go out for anything other than to make themselves and their family proud. And I am ridiculously proud of them. You always will be. But we just need time and patience, and they need a lot of love right now. And I hope they get it on Saturday.
Yeah, completely agree with you. They do need the love and care, and they need the support because they're trying their best. So everyone get behind them, lads. Get down to Musgraves if you can. And hopefully we can get a good performance against France and go forward. Okay.
I think so.
Time for our Never Stop Competing moment of the week. Together with Bank of Ireland, we're giving it to Steph Evans, who scored a great try for Scarlets against Sharks. Showed some real value going full out for a kick chase. You know, from rugby, lads, some wingers, well, I know you both were forwards. We just be chasing balls.
Yeah, sorry, we were just watching you.
Just watching. Wingers just chase balls and chase balls. And yeah, you might chase 100 balls, you might get to one of them, but eventually you do get that beautiful try, Steph, and we're giving it to you, Mr. Steph Evans, for Scarlett. You got our Never Stop Competing moment of the week together with Bank of Ireland. And unfortunately, that's it for the podcast, lads. Lindsay, thank you so much, always for your insight.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Great to have us back. Great to be back.
Great to be back. Mr. Jason O'Mara, you are a talented man, both in the active field and in the rugby field. Your knowledge has really impressed me.
Oh, you are very much welcome back here.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is great. I really had a great time. Thanks so much.
Thanks
You're
for coming.
great
We loved
to
having
me
you.
as well. I hope you cut out all the stuff that didn't make sense.
No,
Well,
you're
that'd be
brilliant.
nothing then, because it all made sense. So fair play to you.
And what's next on the agenda for you? You staying around Dublin for a while or back to America?
Back to LA on Tuesday. Yeah. I'll get back to my tip rugby on the beach on Sundays. So I'll be looking forward to a bit of decent weather. Apparently, the whole time I've been gone the last month, it's been really bad, like almost worse in LA than it has been in Dublin. So and that's saying something. So I'm hoping we'll have a little sunshine now this week.
I'm
Well,
very
you've
jealous.
added sunshine to our mornings. So
Ah,
that's very
stop
much.
it.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
And thank you at home for listening and watching as always. And also a massive thank you to Bank of Ireland, our partners and proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces. We'll catch you next week, guys, for the Champions Cup.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.